Hello everyone, and welcome back to Who Stuff, where today we're doing another one of these collaboration videos, podcast type. Today is something which I'm certainly looking forward to, where we're going to be discussing anniversary specials. There's only four, but seems like there's a lot more. But yes, let's get started. We're going back to 1973 for the 10th anniversary first with the Three Doctors. Now, for me, personally, it's not the best story. It's just an enjoyable story with some naff elements to it.
I'm a massive fan of the Three Doctors. I love Pertwee and Troughton and a little bit of Hartnell as it is, so to see the three of them is just great. The highlight for me though is probably Omega, because I just think he's such a cool villain. He's just great. But yeah, it's okay, but I enjoy it, I can sit through it, and it's good for like a Sunday afternoon or something, so that's my thought.
My thoughts are that it's a really good story. I really like the chemistry between Pertwee and Troughton. I thought they worked really well together. Hartnell was good for when he was in it, although I did feel that the jail guards were underused, and Omega was a great villain. And I really liked, I think it was part 3's cliffhanger, where the Doctor fights that Vision Omega thingy.
For me, I absolutely love it. It's the first multi-Doctor story, but I think it's the best they've done it. Obviously, it's a shame that William Hartnell was ill and he couldn't be in it more, but when he is in it, he's still very good, and Pertwee and Troughton interact is great. They are just really good together. Paul introduces Omega, an amazing villain who is really good in this. The Gale Guards are good, if a bit underused. Overall, it's really fun, brilliant story, and my favourite out of the lot of these.
We're skipping ahead 10 years now to the 20th anniversary of Doctor Who with the 5 Doctors. Now, shamefully, I hadn't seen this one up until very recently, and it's a shame because Paul Terrance Dicks seems to have been given a bit of a story idea, but with this massive checklist of things to include in the story, and it seems to be within each scene he writes about. We've got the Daleks in it, we've got the Third Doctor, the First Doctor, we've done that. It just seems there's a little bit too much going on, but again, it's one of those stories where it's not the best, it's not the worst, you can just stick it on there, and it's a very, very fun watch for an hour and a half, however long it is. But one thing it does finally result in is a showdown between the Third Doctor and the Cybermen, which is something I talked about last week, so that gets bonus points for me.
I think the 5 Doctors is actually really good. It has elements in it which feel, Terrance Dicks obviously wants to crowd, put a lot into this, and at times it does show that there is a lot of things going on. But I just think for an anniversary special, yes, it's quite fan servicey, but it works, and I love seeing all the Doctors, bar Tom Baker and William Hartnell, because he passed away. But I just think it's really fun. I enjoy it, and it's not perfect, but it's certainly a good one. So
I watched the 5 Doctors years ago, but I rewatched it in preparation for this video. I don't own the DVD, so I had to find it on Dailymotion, but the only thing I could find on Dailymotion was like this fan special edition thing, and I'm not going to be too harsh on the story, as I didn't see the actual thing. From what I remembered adding into that, it seemed like a pretty good story, although some bits did seem a bit confusing, but I'm not sure if that was just because of the things that were cut and that I forgot. And sometimes it did feel overcrowded, like there are some people that just didn't really need to be in there.
It's good, but as a multi-Doctor story, it doesn't really work because you barely see the Doctors together a lot. It's like right at the end is really the only time where they properly interact, which is a bit of a shame. It's fun though. I mean, I can see why. Big anniversary special, let's chuck loads of stuff in, make it fun, make it exciting, do fan service, which I do enjoy, but the actual plot of the story isn't that great. I find it drags a little bit for me. Richard Hurnell, I don't really like as the first Doctor. He's no David Bradley. But it's not bad. I can enjoy it. It is fun to watch, and when the Doctors finally do all interact at the end, it is very nice to see.
We're skipping now 5 years ahead, 25th anniversary, which is, of course, Remembrance Note, Silver Nemesis. Silver Nemesis. Where do you start with this one? I mean, what's going on in this? It's one of those stories which, by this point in Doctor Who, 6-part story is sort of non-existent, but even if it was just a 4-part story and it just had a little bit more breathing space to include more of the elements, because there's just stories which go nowhere. Some character pops up in part 1 and then you don't hear about him again. It just feels like the 5 Doctors, which had too much crammed in, but it's not even a multi-Doctor story, it's not even a story with multiple monsters, but it just still feels too much is crammed in. It suffers from what a lot of new Doctor Who stories do, which it's just 45 minutes of just mess, and I think it can be compared to Silver Nemesis. McCoy and Sophie Aldred are brilliant as always, and there's a couple of silly scenes when the Cybermen land and you get some weird death scenes with over the top falling to the ground or whatever, and the music's quite good as well, but it's my least favourite of the anniversary specials by far, especially when you've got a Remembrance of the Daleks in the same season, which has way more to do with Doctor Who and would make much more sense as an anniversary special.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that McCoy is my favourite Doctor, but I would probably say this is my least favourite McCoy story, full stop. I love season 24, but that's going off track. I wish Remembrance was the anniversary special. It would have been so much more fitting, and Remembrance always strikes me as that sort of anniversary-like thing, because it obviously features Colville School. But no, they choose Silver Nemesis for some weird reason, which I'm still not too sure why. I don't think it's great. Obviously, Sylvester and Sophie are top-notch, as per usual. But the story, it's really flat, doesn't do much for me at all. The Cybermen design isn't great either, a bit too shiny and stuff. The soundtrack, though, is great, and that is probably one of the only best things in it. It has some good scenes dotted around, but on the whole, not great.
This was an episode that I hadn't watched before, so I attempted to watch it in preparation for this, but I got halfway through part 2 before just giving up. I was just getting bored, and part 1 was great. I really enjoyed it. I thought the build-up to that was good, although I wasn't really sure on these medieval time-travelling people. When it gets to part 2, the story just becomes messy. And those mugger people who just bang on about social workers for no reason. What was that all about? As you guys said, McCoy and Sophie Aldred were great. The soundtrack was good too. And I actually don't mind the Cybermen designs, to be honest. I think they look alright.
Yeah, as Ollie said, I agree. I think part 1 was really good, because I bought the story for this video, and I went into it thinking, this is quite a hated story, I'll keep an open mind, but I'm not expecting it to be the best. I watched part 1 and I was thinking, no, this is really, really good. I thought part 1 was brilliant, I loved what was going on. There was quite a lot thrown in, but in part 1, I think it made the story fun and exciting, and a lot was going on. But then in the rest of the story, everything that was going on in part 1 just went nowhere. Nothing happened in the later parts. The Cybermen didn't do much. The plot is non-existent. Just everything that was sort of built up in part 1, I mean, it promised more than it delivered. A lot of the stuff was just never seen again. The Nazi stuff, what happened with that? Fans' Eyes Remembrance is the anniversary special. I totally agree. That just makes so much more sense. Whereas with this, I mean, I get that it's Silver anniversary, Silver Cyberman, yeah, great. But Remembrance just feels like it should be the anniversary special. This, yeah, some of it's fun. I really like part 1. Seventh Doctor and Ace, as you all said, Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred are great as usual, but the story just goes nowhere. And even at 3 parts, it's just drags in the later parts, and it feels so messy. Yeah, not great.
Okay, let's move on now to our final story, which is one which has more to do with Doctor Who's history, feels more like an anniversary special and actually goes somewhere and has characters which do stuff, and that is, of course, Day of the Doctor, the most recent special. This used to be a story which I really, really enjoyed, but as I rewatched it the other night, it just felt a little bit silly. I mean, I feel it starts off a little bit odd with the Doctor being flown in with his TARDIS and then dangling out around London. That's a bit silly, and it's a good story, but yeah, I just feel it was a bit. Maybe the script was rushed. It's a good story.
Yeah, the story's decent. I remember watching this on the day and thinking it was great, but over the years I think it's dwindled a little bit. So it's okay. I think it does its job. It definitely makes. It's the 50th. I will always know it as the 50th. But as I wouldn't rate it number 1 because I see it number 1 in these polls. I just wouldn't agree with that at all. But yeah, it's okay, really.
I remember the story quite well. Well, I remember 2013 Doctor Who quite well, with all the build-up and the references to the classic series and the show's history in Series 7. When I first watched this, I thought this was the greatest episode ever. Rewatched it, well, loads of times since then, and kind of just hasn't had that same effect, or either nostalgia wins me over. But the last time I watched this was when they did the lockdown watch-along, and I'd say that was the closest I felt to enjoying it like how I did. Not thinking it was the greatest episode of all time, but just enjoying it a whole lot more like I did back in 2013. Because I think this story only works as a massive kind of community thing. I mean, stories are alright, but like it has some messy bits.
I absolutely love Day of the Doctor. It's one of those stories where objectively it's not the best, but I still just have a blast watching it. I mean, the plot is a bit messy and not the greatest, but I still just love watching it. And 10th Doctor and the 11th Doctor are brilliant together. I mean, I love both of their Doctors, so I think it's great to see them together. I also really like the War Doctor. I know a lot of you don't, but I think he's great. There's a lot going on, and it's just a lot of fun. And I can still remember going to the cinema to watch it when on the day back in 2013. It's one of my earliest memories of Doctor Who, and it brings back some great memories. It's a lot of fun. I get it's not the best story, but I still just love it. And last time I watched it was also on the lockdown thing, and I loved it. It's just great.
So that's the 4 stories. That's what we think of them. We would love to hear your thoughts on these 4 stories in the comments below. It'll be interesting to hear everyone's thoughts, to be honest, because I don't think our thoughts are in line with most Who fans, but there we go. So next week...
And I'm sure we can get Max to put his thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, oh yeah, we didn't mention that. Sorry, Max isn't here today, but yeah.
Yeah.
So next week on the channel, it's either Max or Seb's solo video, I believe.
Pretty sure it's Seb's.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you stick around for that, of course. And until next time, we shall see you in the next video.
Get us to 100 subs and we'll all sing Doctor in Distress.
I haven't agreed to that, but we'll see.